Sideline Guys back on the air at sidelineguys.recordernews.com. I'm Mark Robards along with Adam Schinder. And yes, high school basketball season has finally come to an end. One game too short for some of the local teams, Fonda and Fort Plain to think of the most. But figured we'd take the opportunity on this Monday edition of the Sideline Guys to kind of take a look back over the season. A lot of great memories to look back over this year.
Yeah, it's been a really, really fun season of high school basketball. A lot of interesting games, a lot of great individual performances. So we just thought we'd look back at some of our favorites from the year.
So why don't we start our favorite game of the year?
Well, my favorite game of the year was the first game I saw of the new year, January 4th, up in Saratoga, Fort Plain 51, Spa Catholic 50. About as intense a high school basketball game as you're ever going to see. But the guy who made the whole thing was Craig Phillips for his interplay with the Spa Catholic students during the game. And then after the game, when they'd won just a big emotional win, the first win that really legitimized the Hilltoppers for the rest of the season, Craig Phillips went on one of the most emotional outbursts I've ever seen from him, and he is no stranger to emotional outbursts. It was something that we had up on our website at sidelineguys.recordernews.com, but he was so happy to have won that game, and it was just a great emotional night.
And to those of us who know him, there was absolutely no surprise with that outburst. They went on, obviously, into sectionals, made it all the way to the sectional semifinals before falling to Lake George. My favorite game of the year also involves Fort Plain, but it comes a little later than yours. It was the WAC Cup Championship game at Fulton Montgomery Community College, in which Fort Plain knocked off a very heavily favored Schenectady Christian team, and not only did they knock them off, but they really dominated them, especially on defense. 54-40 was the final. Colin Stewart, 28 points for Schenectady Christian. The rest of the team combined for just a dozen. And that was the strength of Fort Plain all season, was their really tight defense. They were in their opponents' back pockets through the entire games. But it wasn't necessarily just their play that made this my favorite game of the season. It was going into the locker room after the game with these kids and just seeing the genuine excitement on their faces, jumping around with their chant, "I believe that we have won," which I know you've told me is far from original, but it's something that they took as their own this season, and their fans took as their own going on later into the season. And they rode this high right on into the sectionals where, like I said, they ended up finally losing in the semifinals to Lake George, but it really was a magical season for this team.
Yeah, and we were able to see just a whole lot of games that those are our favorites, but I have to quickly mention a girls' game I saw back Christmas week. Amsterdam versus West 50th Street campus from down in New York during the Amsterdam Holiday Festival was just a great game that the Lady Rams went back and forth all night. They had not a lot of three-pointer all night until West 50th Street tied the game on one with 11 seconds left. But Megan Smith came right down the other way, hit a layup just before the buzzer. Was just a really terrific win for that team, and kind of the first real spark that they showed after a pretty rough start to the season.
And I'll give you a couple of boys' games that I consider my quote-unquote honorable mentions. The first one, another Fort Plain game, a classic, the Class C quarterfinal game. 43-41, Fort Plain barely pulled out their third meeting of the year with Mayfield. Jabin Weaver with a clutch three-pointer with about 26 seconds left on the clock. It really was a heartbreaker for Pete Updike's team, but you know what? I said all along that the Mayfield team was an up-and-coming team that was going to really give people fits late in the season, and that's what they did. And you know what? I maybe thought a little bit after the Lake George loss that victory over Mayfield may have taken a little bit out of Fort Plain and cost them in the long run, but I guess we'll never know. The other game, and this leads us into our next category that we're going to talk about, our favorite individual performance of the season. And to that, I look to another one of my favorite games of the season, and that was the Class AA opening round game in which Joe Agresta's Amsterdam Running Rams pulled off a stunning, and I mean stunning, 56-52 upset of Suburban Council's second seed, Albany Academy. Albany Academy played an independent schedule, so no, they were not truly a Suburban Council team, but they were seated on that side of the bracket. And they walked in, and you could tell by their coach and their players that they expected just to be able to roll the ball out on the court and walk away with this victory. But the Rams said no way, and especially, and this is the person who I picked for the individual performance, Dondre Edgerton We've been waiting all season for Dondre to kind of break out. He's a player that could show some dominance inside, but it was only in small spurts throughout the game. In this game, anything farther from the truth. He dominated from the beginning to the end. 20 points, I think about a dozen rebounds. He was intimidating inside, both on the offensive and defensive boards. It really was the kind of performance that we've been expecting out of him all year.
Yeah, and I saw him turn in some of those good spurts in several games this season. But the individual performance I'm going for goes all the way back to the middle of December in Scotia and Broad Alban Perth's RJ Pinjator, who put on one of the most spectacular shooting displays I have ever seen. 38 points, I believe the high from any player in the area for a single game this season.
Yep.
10 3-pointers, a school record, one short of the Section 2 record, and he was making them from everywhere. I will always remember, this was a 67-59 Broad Alban Perth win, only game Scotia would lose up until the sectional finals to Mahonison, and with about 2 minutes left and the shot clock going down, RJ had a defender draped all over him about 28 feet from the basket, manages to put up this double clutch three-pointer completely off balance as the shot clock goes off, and it went through the rim went through the hoop without making a single sound. It was the absolute moment where you know, okay, it's his night. I have to mention as well Luke Nethaway's performance just last Monday against Hoosick Falls in the Class B semifinals. 19 points, 11 rebounds, but he just absolutely dominated the post.
And finally, we both wanted to mention the best teams that we saw from outside the area. I mean, we had some opportunities to see some great teams this year. Fonda with their first year in the Colonial Council. Amsterdam obviously playing in the very rugged Big Ten Conference, one of the best high school basketball conferences, I believe, in all of New York State. The best team that I think I saw this year, and obviously I saw CBA, and they were good as well, but the team that most impressed me, and they're still going right now, is Waterville Elite. 3 times they took on Fonda, and 3 times they pulled out victories. The first time, a really dominant 52-19 victory. Second and third games, Fonda gave them both a heck of a run. But you know what? This Waterville Elite team is deep. You've got the Gleason brothers, Devontae and Jordan. You've got Griffin Kelly. And just to tell you how deep this team is, their 4th best player, Dan Nittinger, could probably be the leading player on just about any team in the area right here. They roll through a lot of the Colonial Council teams. They roll through the Class B and beat Fonda in very, very thrilling championship game. Beat Catskill in the B game, and now they're heading off to the state tournament, where I think they've got a chance to end up at the TU Center.
Mm-hmm. And now, first off, I'll mention some of the really great players I had a chance to see this year. Terrell Winnie at Scotia is just terrific. Jordan Green at South Glens Falls. But I can't go with anyone else from other than CBA. After the first time I saw them way back in December in Colony when they beat Amsterdam 77-44, and they do it without being flashy. They've got a very good player in Jalal Cancer, the point guard, who is headed to Cornell. But this is just the quintessential team that executes everything perfectly. They beat you inside, they beat you outside. They've got big guys who can shoot, they've got little guys who can drive, they got guys who can post up, they play defense. It is that perfect formula for a high school team that you love to see, a team that is just unselfish, but they just go out and they take care of business, and they've done it so far this entire season, and tomorrow night they'll be playing in the Class AA championship game.
All right, so that'll wrap it up for us for Monday. Coming up Thursday, come on back, because we're going to unveil our boys and girls players of the year. And don't forget to check out the weekend edition of The Recorder, where we unveil our all-area boys and girls teams, as well as our coaches of the year as well. So busy rest of the week for the Sideline Guys. Quickly want to throw a shout-out to our partner in crime, Charlie Crable, who's a little under the weather right now. We want to throw our best to him. We'll see you back here real soon, buddy. We'll see you all on Thursday for the Sideline Guys. I'm Mark. He's Adam. SidelineGuys.recordernews.com. Have a good one.